Good day. Yeah, today I want to talk about something I simply don't understand. I grew up in an era where we believed sticks and stones will break your bones and names will never hurt you, and we all got a lot of names, we all got a lot of nasty things said to us, and generally you shrugged them off and you either had a quick punch up with the person concerned or you made some comments about them and you just moved on. However, some years later, many years later, I was doing some work for a company, and they required everybody who was doing work for them besides their employees to go to, I think it was a half-day course on sexual harassment. Not how to sexual harass anyone, but basically the reality behind the sexual harassment legislation has been, or did then, cause a great deal of trouble. And I can recall the lecturer, there were about 20 or 30 of us in this particular group, saying that if you make a statement to someone of either sex and they take offence at it, even if you do not mean it to be offensive, then you are guilty of sexual harassment. And the argument was put forward that if you walked in and said, "Your hair looks nice today," and the person to whom you were speaking took offence at that, then you are guilty of sexual harassment, in spite of the fact you might have been paying a compliment, simply because the offendee took umbrage at it. Now, I thought at the time, I have never heard so much crap in all my life. However, that whole approach is now embedded in a great deal of our society, and I heard exactly this comment on the radio yesterday. Someone was asking about some racial taunts that have been made, and someone asked if for example, if a particular ethnic word was used, was that offensive? And the reply was, if the offendee believes it's offensive, then it is. Now, I think that this is an absolute load of nonsense. However, let's have a look at the one that makes me a little bit puzzled at the moment. There's some AFL player who's in strife at the moment. We don't know what for, unfortunately. We do know that he made a racist taunt against someone, I think in the Gold Coast Suns, and essentially we don't know what he said. However, he's been suspended for 4 matches, fined $5,000, agreed to have one-on-one counselling, is required to get involved in a mentoring program for remote Indigenous communities. And I think there are a couple of other things as well. Who did this guy kill, for crying out loud? He obviously said something that offended someone on the other team, and this there's no way in any way that you can get around that. This was something that he simply should not have done. But it was on the football field. I'm sure there are plenty of things happen on the football field. If he'd have gone and given him a king hit on the football field, I doubt very much whether he would have been fined $5,000, suspended for 4 matches, and given one-on-one counselling, etc., etc., etc. So, is this any worse than many of the physical things that are done on the field? And are we simply getting too precious about this? Come on, toughen up. All of us have had things said to us that have been particularly miserable. All of us really have to get used to toughen up instead of getting precious about it, running off the authorities. Basically, if you don't like it, do something about it. As I heard someone say the other day, show him on the football field by simply beating the pants off him. I mean, this is a hell of a good way of handling things. I think we're tackling things in exactly the wrong way at the moment. I'm not condoning this racist taunt at all, but I think as a society we need to toughen up a little bit and to put up with it. The other thing that's interesting to me is that the majority, in fact all of the words that were absolutely verboten when I was a youngster, are now heard quite regularly on the television every night. These words, the swear words of the day, it really doesn't matter. I think people that use them regularly really don't have much of a command of the English language, but that's by the by. But there are other words now have become verboten in our language, and I'm pretty sure you can figure out what they are. But it's just interesting, the change in society and the way that that is. So essentially, I think people that, in the main, that have abuse hurled on them, generally should try and toughen up and live with it, and take some other action with it. I think in this case that the penalties seem to me to be particularly extreme. But I'm probably a dinosaur. I had a look at Twitter last night. Now, Twitter is mostly used, of course, by the young folk of the world, but I had a good look around this particular case on Twitter, and I was amazed to see about 95% figured that he should have had a greater penalty. So I'm obviously out of step with what people believe, what they've been taught, I guess, and I just put in my 2 bobs worth. I think the penalty is probably over the top. So there we go. But we don't know what he said. That's the other thing. So maybe if I knew what he said, I'd change my mind. In any case, that's enough of that particular story. Hang in there, and I'll be back fairly soon with some more grumbles, random thoughts, and general complaints about the world in general. Bye for now.